Thank you very much, Gakyo, Lydia Sunchild, Nastiga Sun. And it's just really beautiful to be here amongst everybody. I can see so many similarities and in what Caitlin and Aaliyah have shared and how what I'm going to present today, it overlaps a little bit of what they were doing, intertwines with what they're doing, and reinforces the teaching. So I applaud you both for such an excellent presentation and giving me the perfect segue into what I'm going to show you today. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about total physical response. As a teaching method. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background as to how I learned about what TPR was, how it came to my attention, how I used it. And then I'll show you a demonstration and I'll ask you to participate with me. We shouldn't take too long. TPR is pretty straightforward. It's a pretty amazing teaching technique that can be used in any language for any type of almost anything that you're doing. It's a very universal teaching technique that is by far, for myself, one of the most useful ones that I've ever used, especially when teaching brand new concepts and words. So, yeah. So I'll just get started, and I'll talk a little bit more about, advanced lessons and whatnot towards the end. All right, so I'm just going to start off with talking about a little bit about my background and what do I mean by saying that I grew up with a Cree teacher mom. My mom was very fluent. That was her first language. My Gukum, my Japans, everyone before her spoke full Cree. So I was used to that, hearing that, listening to that, and I could understand it as a young girl. And that was the life that I grew up in. My dad, on the other hand, came from a different side, and everyone in his family went to residential schools for 3 generations. So two very different worldviews in my life. But my mom was very strong in advocating for our language, and she went on to be Cree teacher within our community. So like I said, I always was there, and this is where I learned what a Cree immersion school was. So for me, what a Cree immersion school was and what I learned, what I grew up in, was having things like the prayer, starting the day off every day in prayer. And it's not just the same person. They fluctuate from K to 12 students participating and singing the morning song, one ska song. We participated in school ceremonies. So the preparation, learning what the Oskapios the helpers do, what the woman's role is, what the men's role is, and it fluctuates from grade to grade, who does what, comes together, gets ready for things like a feast, a powwow. If there's a round dance, it's for a memorial within the community. We don't host round dances for just anything. So it's very, I come from a very traditional community where our traditions are run deep. Elder support, so it's just normal to have them in there. In fact, they come so much that we honor them, that we have their presence almost all the time. Land-based learning was embedded through cross-curricular activities, from fishing preparation to all that, cutting up meat. Everything was always intertwined. We have Cree signage across the school. So if you're going up to a door or a table, you have things like De Duppoin or whatever. Everything is named. And we have, even when you're driving into the school, it'll say slow down in Cree on the ground. So let me see, so for myself, as when I became a high school teacher, when I became a teacher, the first thing that I did was I walked into my classroom and I noticed that most of the literature that was being taught there was non-First Nations authors, non-First Nations books. So it was no wonder that my students were frustrated, and they were having a really difficult time trying to understand the concepts of high school English because they couldn't connect to anything. Everything was about farming, city and schools, all this stuff. And it's great. Don't get me wrong. But my students who had tunnel vision, the way that I learned when I was a young kid, I didn't know anything about the city until I moved, until I was an adult. So it was no wonder that I struggled when I was that age. So what we did was we completely took out the library and filled it up with Indigenous literature from Native authors. And so that is what Cree immersion is, what immersion was for me, and as something that I try to take part in as a high school English teacher. Some other things, really quick. We had our career fairs, but we would invite our role models, but role models that come from our school to reinforce and reenact that you can do it too, being from our community. It made no sense to have people. It did make sense to have people come from afar, and that's great. But we, again, always wanting to make those connections, those direct connections, because it means a lot more when you have a student who could say, hey, that's my cousin. That's my, you're somewhere. There's a connection some way, somehow. And it's like, I could do it too. So it's inspiring to see your own people make it. And that recognition throughout the family brings, community pride and whatnot and everything. I will get to TPR. And so this is where it gets along this journey. I was a high school English teacher, and just I was doing a school project, and they asked me to help with the school assembly, and they do school assembly monthlies, and I said, yeah, okay. So, and then I just walked by the Cree teacher's office one day, or classroom one day, and she was doing it. But I would see, like, when I walked around and I noticed the signage and everything, like it was reaffirmed everywhere, and I was getting it because my mom, this is how, even at our house, it's like a Cree class. I was learning the concepts right away, and I was getting what they were doing, even though I had been away from the reserve at that time for probably about 7 or 8 years, because I had left for university and whatnot. So got back, and I noticed all this stuff, and I'm asking, like, so what is this? Like, I get it. It's all connected. What is going on? And they said, oh, yeah, this is TPR. And so, and she said, you're going to do the assembly, so you got to do some TPR. And I was like, yeah, sure, show me. And so I was so amazed in that first, time that I learned it. And it was just the basic commands of Cree. I went to the gym. We had our 150 students there. And what it was is we did total physical response, is using a physical movement to react to the input of the Indigenous language. And a little bit technical, but I'll make it sound so easy here really quick. So basically, it's where students are actively taking part in understanding the language using their five senses. And there's no paper, there's no pens. You don't even need posters on the wall. If you want, you could use cards like Keela has, but it's up to you. And so that to me was like, it was a new teaching concept. And this teaching concept was, the original developer, his name was James Asher. So he's a professor of psychology who theorized on strong memory connection with verbal commands. And I thought, this is so amazing because inherently we are oral learners. And this is revitalizing that oral, education, and by taking part in it and actively moving and actively moving your body. And so I'll show you what that means in a second. Just want to make sure that I'm not forgetting anything. All right. Okay, so if you look into your tools and your binders, you'll see pretty much everything that I'm saying up here is outlined for you. So teaching oral TPR is an oral proficiency tool for beginner level learning of language because it is understood to help immensely with new vocabulary retention. Comprehension is a starting point for communication and action based drills in a command form. So we did this student exchange where I had 20 students from inner city Toronto, all multicultural, none of them with Indigenous background, all came to Thunderchild, and we got them to really be immersed in our culture, and we showed them TPR. First day that they were there, we showed them the second day. The third day, they were doing TPR with our students, and they were doing TPR back. So they understood at least 10 words before they left our community and how to speak our language. So it does work so long as there's repetition, continuous, and for sure, because our language is something that has been shamed and taken from us and used as a tool against us, it is very, very, very important that you're, how do I say it? You're making those right connections with your students because they're already self-critical of any additional criticism that you give will hinder their process. So lots of praise all the time, even if they're saying it wrong, praise, because eventually, like someone said earlier, they will get it. They will say it right. So yeah, with that being said, there's many different ways to do this. So some of the steps are outlined here. TPR. Okay, so what does TPR with the body mean? It's body movement. Stand up, sit down, walk, stop, run. There's many different ways that you could do this. So if I were to say stand up, okay? You don't have to do anything now. Our stand up is just stand up. It's just standing there, right? Get up, bus go. Sit, you're sitting down. Walk. So it's different. Either you're going to walk in a class or you're going to ask your students to walk, or you can use hand gestures, put your hand out, and you like walk. Okay? Or run. Run, or you're running in one spot. Stop. Okay? So those are some basic words that we'll use today for today's lesson. But it's up to you as a language teacher, instructor, in whatever language that you use at a beginning form. It can be used at any age. It's up to you what you're comfortable and what words you're going to use. When I first started, I just got these off Google, and I have these really good cards, but I just couldn't seem to find them. But so I had power dancers on these before, so it's images that the students can connect to. When I actually taught, it was pictures of my students, and so they have an even deeper connection because they want to see their picture, and it's like, and then they're happy to do it, right? Or you take it down, you take those high school students and use these cards in elementary, and a lot of those kids have brothers and sisters there, right? And they're like, they can make it making connections. That's the main, one of the main things that I try to do. Delay is our next. So, delay is just checking comprehension and assessment, making sure that the students know. Wait for them, because some students might not know what ape means. And they're waiting around. You wait for everybody to sit, or use a variety of words. So usually, this is my startup. I haven't been in the classroom for a very long time, so I cannot tell you how awesome this feels to be up here. When I left teaching 4 years ago, I've been in an administration role ever since. But I've taken these lessons, and these are the types of things that I advocate for. There's a whole reason why I left, because from what I saw as a high school teacher, growing up on a First Nations community, you know, First Nations languages and advocacy for these types of teaching tools were not always accessible. So I really wanted to become part of that change. And so that's what I'm doing now. So it is really refreshing to be back here and to share this. Number 3 says, so vary the words. Avoid predictability. Don't just stay in the same, repetition that you have. Mix it up. And number 4, keep the class moving. So for your whole class, technically you should be up the whole class. Not a whole lot of sitting down. In fact, my Cree teacher, she has chairs. There's no desks at all. And then if it's TPR is used throughout, well, when I was there, TPR was used throughout the school. The commands are reinforced throughout the school. So the basic commands, students know them, and they're spoken on the what is it called again? The intercom. Yes, thank you. All right. Comprehension check. It's so simple. Have them close their eyes. See if they can still do it. Right? Because we're not assessing with paper anymore. It's can you actually move and do this? What else is there? Use hand gestures, comprehension check, yeah. And then again, as the year goes on, you're going to combine words. You'll tell if you need more words because they'll get bored. They'll be like, oh, I know this, And kids are honest. They're so honest. Yeah. And number 7, novel commands. So give commands that are unique and interesting. So, make it fun. And as over time, you'll see that these words that are being used will become more and more natural. There's so many different ways that you could use TPR in gym. It's so cross-curricular, that you could use it in a form of songs. Like Brian McDonald, you mentioned Brian McDonald, right? He's so famous where we are. I have that song stuck in my head since you brought it up. Songs with no movement. You can make a pattern book. You could make a memory game. You can do this on land-based learning. So many different ways. It's so fluid that it's, I wish that more people knew about it. And it's just a universal tool that I think is great for everybody. So yeah, with that being said, we're going to do a short exercise, and I will demonstrate, and then I will ask you to join me. All right. I'm wondering, do you guys want to stay where you are? You guys want to come in front? If anyone wants to come in front, you're more than welcome. But all right. Okay. So if I say Nipawee, it just means stand up. And so all I'm doing is stand up. Well, I guess I could have said buss-a-go, because now you guys got up. Buss-a-go is like standing up. I need a chair. Sorry. Can I borrow that? Or should I take one from this? Okay, I'm just going to make sure I get my words. All right. So, ape. Okay. Buss-a-go. Okay. Bimote. Or you can walk. Walk in there once. Walk. Nagi. Okay. Pimpata. Nagi. Okay. Ape. All right. So now, while you're sitting there, we'll just switch it up a little bit. So I won't go in that same order, but I'm not sure if you guys feel confident to do it with your eyes closed? All right, let's try this again. Okay, and so I'm just gonna stand here. All right, basta go. And you'll notice that I'm doing a delay. Basta go. Okay. Pimpata. Nagi. Pimpa. Nagi. Stop. Pimpata. Pimote. Nagi. Ape. All right. So yeah, so something simple like that, and then you're just mixing it up. Sometimes people will, my mom usually will, she'll put in a dance word or an animal word if there's younger kids. Um, so it's basic, it's simple. You get your people actually, moving, and yeah, I think that's it for, that's all I have to say about that.